Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to break down the Tuesday night football game between the Bills and the Titans. We actually have a primetime game on Tuesday night because of COVID and, games getting rescheduled, postponed. This game got, rescheduled to Tuesday night. The Thursday night game, I believe this Thursday, it was supposed to be the Bills playing the Chiefs. That game got rescheduled as well, so we actually don't have a Thursday night game this week. But we do have a Tuesday night game that will finish off Week 5. The Bills and the Titans, like I said, pretty high total in this game, which is something, we normally, at least me, like personally, I wouldn't think these two teams would, or we'd see such a high total between these two teams. But right now, I believe this game has like a 53 total. It's not showing on Labs right now, but the Bills have a 28.25 implied team total. The Titans 24.75. Just doing the math in my head, that does add up to 53. So 53 total in this game, which is kind of surprising. Bills are favored by like 3.5 or 3.5. So should make for a pretty good game. Always love having these extra games. Sometimes we'll get the Monday night doubleheaders because of the COVID, because of games getting postponed. Getting a Tuesday night game this week. So we'll break down this Showdown slate. Draftkings, once again, running out huge tournaments for Showdown, for these Showdown slates. So I'm going to continue to put out content, continue to make videos for them, at least for, the Monday night games, the Thursday night games when we do have them. Sunday night games, probably still won't be covering those, but definitely, Monday night, Thursday night. And if we get more Tuesday night games, I'll be sure to have content for those as well. But before we do get started with the video, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. If you are new here to the channel, I would appreciate it if you would click that subscribe button as well. I do upload, Showdown videos twice a week to this channel. I get videos up for the main slate as well, obviously covering the main slate. I will have my first look video out probably on Tuesday. It depends on when Draftkings releases their salaries. Right now, they haven't actually put out salaries yet for Sunday's main slate, but once we do get some salaries for Sunday's main slate, I will have my first look video up. Obviously, I'll have my final breakdown, my full video going up most likely Friday. So check all that out throughout the week. Obviously, going to be having videos up for Showdown as well. No Thursday night game, but still got a Tuesday night game for this week. Pretty sure we have 2 Monday night games next week, so might have another 2-game slate with big prize pools. But yeah, let's go ahead and break down the Showdown slate. We'll start off at the top of the player pool like we always do. We'll just work our way down, talk about all the playable options. So at the top, Josh Allen, quarterback, is actually the most expensive option on the Showdown slate, which normally we don't see. Normally you see like number 1 wide receivers, number 1 running backs usually as the most expensive options, just depending on who they are. But here we got Josh Allen as the most expensive option, $13K if you want to play him in the flex. He is $19.5 if you want to use him as a captain. So obviously Josh Allen, very, very expensive here. It is going to be pretty tough to get him in, especially if you want to play him at captain. Like playing him at captain is going to be pretty tough to do. But he has shown massive upside this season. Over 30 DraftKings points, or actually over 33 DraftKings points in 3 of their first 4 games. Had his worst game of the season last year, and he still put up 25 DK points against the Raiders. 288 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Did also have a rushing touchdown in that game towards the goal line. His rushing touchdown equity is so high. He's got a rushing touchdown in 3 of their 4 games. Like when they get down to the goal line, they're letting Josh Allen punch it in a lot. They're letting him punch it in more than, handing it off to Singletary. When Zach Moss is healthy, they would use Zach Moss near the goal line. I think Moss will be back for this game, so maybe that cuts into Allen's, goal line touchdown potential a little bit, but he just has so much upside, man. He's really looked like one of the best QBs in fantasy so far. Against the Titans, I'm not too worried about this matchup. Given this game has a 53 total, it is likely we maybe see a shootout here if the Titans can keep up with the Bills. I like Josh Allen a lot. It's hard not to like him on a single game Showdown slate, but am I going to go out of my way to play him? I don't think I'm going to do that because he is very expensive. He does limit, what you can do with the rest of your lineup. We'll definitely talk about different lineup builds where you play Josh Allen. Normally I want to get one of the 2 quarterbacks in. So if you're not playing Allen, your next guy to go to is Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's not someone that I love playing for DFS just because I think, his upside is pretty limited because, this Tennessee Titans team, they want to run the ball as much as possible. They want to run the ball with Derrick Henry 30, 35 times if they can. Maybe this will be a game where they can't do that because there is a possibility they get behind against this really good Bills team. But yeah, Josh Allen's a great play. It's just a matter of if you can find a way to fit him in. We'll talk about some cheaper guys I like that could make it, a little bit easier to get him in. Derrick Henry, though, I do like a lot as a pay-up option. He's 11K. You do save some salary going down from Josh Allen to Henry. And I think Henry, other than Allen, probably has the most upside out of anyone on this Showdown slate. His pass catching work, pass catching usage, it's not where I would like it to be. I want to see Derrick Henry getting 4, 5, 6 targets a game. Right now, that's not going to be the case. Hopefully, they'll involve him more in the passing game in the future. But the carries, man, you can't do much worse. I mean, you can't, it doesn't get much better than this, I should say. 31 rushing attempts, 25, 26. He's going to get close to 30 touches. If they get behind, Derrick Henry's still going to be involved. They're not going to take Derrick Henry off the field. He's such a good running back. Even if they get behind, they'll find a way to get him involved. I really like Derrick Henry. He's pretty much their only running back. I don't even know who else they have behind Derrick Henry. Dion Lewis is no longer on the team. So let me just see who's their next running back. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who Tennessee's backup running back is. So I'm guessing it's this guy, I don't even know how to say his name, Durante Evans. He's literally only played once this season, and he got 3 carries against Minnesota. Let's see anyone else, any other running backs they have. So Sonoris Perine, he's on IR. Jeremy McNichols, he's got 2 touches or 3 touches so far this season. They really have no other guys. Derrick Henry is going to be on the field, even if they're down 35 points. Well, I wouldn't say that, but they might pull the starters then. But if they were down 25 points, 21 points, they're down 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry's still going to be on the field. I'm not too worried about them getting behind and taking Henry off the field. That's just not going to be the case. They're going to feed Derrick Henry the ball as much as possible. He is going to be on the field a ton. We know if they get down to the goal line, he is going to be punching it in. You don't have to worry about them, giving it to Tannehill or letting Tannehill, sneak in for a touchdown. They don't do that. When they get down to the 2, the 3, the 1, they're just handing it off to Derrick Henry. I like Henry a lot. I think he has easy potential for 100-plus yards and multiple touchdowns. The matchup against the Bills is not the best. The Bills do have a pretty good run defense. They've always been pretty good against the run. That's been the case so far this season, only allowing 101 rushing yards per game, which is 8th best in the league. Not the best matchup, but Derrick Henry just so involved in this offense, going to get so much volume. He's still one of my favorite pay-up options to pay up for. Definitely want to try and fit him in captain if I can find a way to do so. But then you got Steph Diggs, 10-6. Diggs has been awesome so far this season, no doubt about it. Getting good volume as well in this Bills offense. 9 targets, 13 targets, 6, 7 targets. He's going to get, anywhere from 6 to 8 targets, potentially more. Has big play upside, has 25, 30-point upside. We've seen that so far this season. Me personally, I think he's so closely priced with Derrick Henry that I would probably rather go to Derrick Henry. But I really have no problem with Diggs. If you want to get to him, I don't mind that. But I think I would rather go to Henry if I can only play one. Tannehill at 9,800, his price tag is what makes him appealing. And given that it's, a single-game showdown slate, that's really the only reason I have interest in Tannehill here. Normally, especially talking about a main slate, I really never play Tannehill on a full main slate. But on a single game showdown slate, he is definitely going to be a guy I'm interested in, going to be a guy I get exposure to. 9,800, you do get some savings, obviously, going down from Josh Allen to Tannehill. Tannehill, like I said earlier, doesn't have the most upside. This is a team that wants to run the ball as much as possible. There's a legit shot or a legit chance that Tannehill only throws the ball, 25, 30 times if game script sets up the way, it could, which, if the Titans get a lead, we could just see them pound the rock with Derrick Henry. Even if they get behind, they will still give the ball to Derrick Henry a ton. That's my only concern. But at 9,800, for a quarterback at this price, I think I'd honestly rather play him over Stephon Diggs. Diggs probably gives you 30-point upside, but I think in terms of floor, if there's one guy that I, had to bet my life gives me 15 points, it's probably going to be Ryan Tannehill. He's going to give you anywhere from 15 to 20. I don't know if he has 25, 30-point upside. If he does, go for 25, 30 Draftkings points, and that's obviously taken away from Derrick Henry. I think, if you're playing Henry, you probably don't want to play Tannehill because we know, Henry doesn't catch a ton of balls out of the backfield. It's very unlikely you see Derrick Henry get, any receiving touchdowns. If Henry scores 2 touchdowns here, it's very unlikely that Tannehill throws for 3 touchdowns unless, the Titans are just going off and putting up a ton of points. So you're definitely going to want to choose between one of those 2 guys. Me personally, like I said earlier, I would rather play Henry, but I still like Tannehill. I like getting exposure to at least one of the 2 quarterbacks. And because Josh Allen is so expensive, in lineups where I don't have Henry, definitely want to look to get some Ryan Tannehill into those lineups. A.J. Brown do have some interest in. He should be he should be back in the lineup here. He's listed as questionable, but he did practice in full, which makes me assume that he's going to play. Normally, when guys practice in full, they're going to play when the game comes. So I'm expecting A.J. Brown to play, and he should be looking at massive volume here. The Titans are without Corey Davis and Adam Humphries. Both their number 2 and 3 receivers are on the COVID list, not going to be active for this game. So I do expect Brown to get probably 8 to 10 targets, potentially more. Right now, the Bills, are dealing with some injuries on the defensive end. I believe Tre'Davious White is questionable for this game. So if Tre'Davious White were to be out, it would become a much easier matchup for A.J. Brown. I think he does, interest me at 8,800. He's not a must-play by any means, but I do like him at the price. I like that, Davis and Humphries are both out. I like that Tre'Davious White's questionable. All those things, add up to just make me more interested in A.J. Brown. At 800, definitely a guy I will have some interest in. If in a lineup where I maybe play A.J. Brown at captain, then I would definitely look to get Ryan Tannehill in those lineups and probably fade Derrick Henry. But if I'm playing Derrick Henry at captain, honestly, I don't want to play a ton else from Tennessee because if Henry scores multiple touchdowns, it's very unlikely that any of these other guys, the receivers, the quarterback, it's unlikely they're putting up monster games. So that's just my thoughts there. Then you have Devin Singletary. I would say out of all these mid-range guys, Singletary's probably my favorite at 8K. Really like the price for him. I think he should be a little bit more expensive than he is. He's definitely feels like he's a little bit too cheap here. Been getting really good volume the last few weeks, mainly due to Zach Moss being out. Zach Moss, he's been out, I believe, the last 3 games. Singletary, last week, 23 touches, 17 touches the week before that. Moss, I'm expecting, is going to be back for this game. He's listed as questionable, but I'm assuming he's going to play here. With Zach Moss most likely returning, obviously that takes a hit for Devin Singletary, but with how well he's played the last few weeks with Moss out, I think, maybe they'll lean on Devin Singletary a little bit more than they were at the beginning of the season. They were using Zach Moss a lot at the beginning of the season. It's to be determined how they use him, coming back from an injury. I still like Devin Singletary a ton. He's still their number 1 running back. Should get, anywhere from 14 to 16 carries if I had to guess. He gets work in the passing game as well. They will get him 4 to 6 targets. Definitely have interest in him at 8K. I do like him a lot in that price range. Jonnu Smith at 7,200 I think is interesting, mainly due to the fact that Corey Davis and Adam Humphries are out. With those 2 guys out, Jonnu Smith is most likely going to become the number 2 option in the passing game behind A.J. Brown. He's been pretty consistent so far this season, been getting pretty good volume, 7, 5, 8 targets through 3 games. He has scored 3 touchdowns so far this season. He does have touchdown equity, does have touchdown upside. At 7,200, I for sure think he's in play. I think if I can find the salary, I would probably rather get up to Devin Singletary. But Smith is a fine option to go to. Between him and Cole Beasley, I think I would much rather play Jonnu Smith. Beasley at 6,800. What is Cole Beasley's upside, in my opinion? I just don't think he has that much upside. I don't think he has a ton of touchdown, equity. I think if there's a guy in this price range that's more likely to score a touchdown, it's probably Jonnu Smith rather than Cole Beasley. Now that I say that, Cole Beasley will probably score 2 touchdowns and make me look stupid, but Beasley's not normally a guy I really enjoy playing. He just doesn't feel like he has much upside. John Brown has been, I believe John Brown was out last week, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm wrong. No, John Brown did play last week. He is questionable for this game. I am assuming that he's going to play. He was questionable last week and he played. So with John Brown healthy, with Diggs healthy, I just don't really feel like I need to go to Cole Beasley at 6,800. He's probably going to be a guy I fade in that price range. Would rather get to Jonnu. Would rather get up to Singletary if I can. Honestly, would rather save some salary, save $1,000 and play John Brown at 5,800. I do like John Brown. I do think he gives you some upside. Definitely gives you more upside than Cole Beasley, just in my opinion. If there's a guy that can, spike a 50, 60-yard touchdown, it is for sure John Brown. Looked really, really good the first 2 games this season. Hasn't done much since then. Did have a really good week 1, though, against the Jets. 6 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. Week 2 against the Dolphins, 4 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown. Went catchless against the Rams, and then last week against the Raiders, just 4 for 42 on 5 targets. Still, though, he's the number 2 receiver in this offense behind Steph Diggs. Gonna get pretty solid volume. 6 to 8 targets does feel like a pretty good projection for John Brown. At 5,800, he's kind of like the Manuel Sanders play for me from Monday night. I think he's one of these guys that's cheap, that gives you, 20-point upside, which is what I'm looking for. When I'm looking for a cheap captain, I need a guy that can, spike a big game, can give me 20, 25. And I think that is John Brown. At 5,800, I do like him a lot. as a cheaper option. I think he is for sure captain worthy. If you do play him at captain, you will definitely be able to pay up for Josh Allen. You'll probably be able to get Derrick Henry in there as well, or you could play both quarterbacks. You could play Tannehill. Definitely like John Brown is a cheap option. The Bills defense, not the biggest fan of playing defenses on showdown slates. It just rarely works. Like, rarely do you see defenses in the winning lineup unless they get like a pick six or something. The Bills have a good defense, but the Titans are just such a run-heavy team. It's hard to force, turnovers on this Titans team because of how much they run the ball. Like, when I'm playing defenses, I want to face teams that are going to throw a lot because that just gives you the opportunity to get sacks, to get forced fumbles, to get pick sixes. Not the biggest fan of paying $5K for the Bills defense. Just talking about the Titans defense, I don't really want to go to them either. Probably going to be fading the defenses in general. The kickers, we'll just hit on them real quick. The kickers are always fine to go to. Normally, I would only play one. Rarely do I play both kickers in one lineup. Stephen Gostkowski, I just looked at this. The dude had 25 Draftkings points last week against the Vikings. I don't think you're ever going to see a kicker do that well. Like, normally kickers give you anywhere from like 8 to 15 at the max. Getting 25 from Gostkowski is a bit of an outlier. But you could play one of the two kickers. Like I said, they're normally going to give you anywhere from like 8 to 12, 14 points, maybe 15 at the max. Sure, you could get, like the kickers could definitely outscore Dawson Knox. The kickers could outscore Gabriel Davis. Maybe they outscore Khalif Raymond as well. So for that reason, I don't mind playing one of the two kickers, especially when there's not much value. Like when there aren't a ton of plays under 5K that I love, then normally I'm fine playing one of the two kickers. That's kind of the case on this slate. Not a ton of great value, just in my opinion. We'll talk about, Khalif Raymond, though. I do have some interest in him at 4,800. So with Corey Davis and Adam Humphries both out, I am expecting for Khalif Raymond to operate as a number 2 receiver, to pretty much be out there alongside A.J. Brown. I said it earlier, Jonnu Smith, in terms of targets, I think Jonnu Smith probably second on the team in terms of targets behind A.J. Brown. But Khalif Raymond will definitely be on the field a ton. Like, they're going to need him to be on the field. Should get some looks as well. He did have a pretty big game last week on limited volume. 3 catches on 3 targets, had 118 yards on those 3 targets. It looks like he did have a 61-yard catch. So a little bit of an outlier performance from him last week, but he's going to get the opportunity now with both, Corey Davis and Humphries out. He's only 4,800. I could see using him as a cheap value. If you want to go to him over the kickers, I really have no problem with that at all. I think Raymond probably gives you a little bit more upside than the kickers do, so you could go to him. Gabriel Davis at 4,600, I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, I think I would much rather play Raymond over him. If John Brown plays, it's just hard to trust Davis because he's going to be like the number 4 option on this team behind, Diggs, Brown, Beasley. Davis doesn't get much volume either. He has scored twice so far this season in 2 of their 4 games. You're going to need a touchdown from him. Like, it's unlikely he gets, 7, 8 targets. You're going to need him to get, a touchdown to get a play where he gets open. I'd rather play Khalif Raymond. I think Raymond's going to be on the field way more. He's going to play way more snaps. His volume, I think, is a little bit more, his volume's a little bit higher as well. I think he sees more targets. So if I had to choose one of those 2 receivers, I would rather play Raymond. Dawson Knox, I don't really want to go to him even at 3,400. Like, he's really cheap, but just doesn't get much involvement in this offense. The Bills really don't use their tight ends either to begin with. Like, they don't really involve tight ends in their passing game. Knox just 3 targets so far this season, through 3 targets every game so far. Sure, you could maybe catch a touchdown. He could catch a touchdown like in the red zone or something, but probably won't be on Dawson Knox. Zach Moss is only 2,600. If he plays this game, which I'm assuming he will, what is his workload going to look like coming back from injury? Week 1 against the Jets, he got 9 carries, 4 targets. And then week 2 against the Dolphins, 8 carries, no involvement in the passing game. He did get a receiving touchdown week 1. I believe that was towards the goal line. They did involve Zach Moss a lot near the goal line the first couple of weeks. Is that going to be the case, with how well Singletary's played the last few games? Is that going to be the case now? Unlikely, I would say. I think Singletary does have a pretty good grip on this backfield. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be like a 70-30 split between Singletary and Moss. 2,600, I guess is just a cheap option, kind of hoping that maybe things go his way. Like, maybe Singletary comes out of the gate and he's struggling. Maybe he fumbles and he gets benched or something. Like, if you're playing Zach Moss, you probably definitely want to fade Singletary. Like, I wouldn't want to play Singletary and Moss in the same lineup because I just don't think that's going to work out. But Moss at 2,600, I think at least gives you some touchdown potential, and he's cheap. So I could see using him as just a cheap punt option. But like I said earlier, I don't really want to go to the Buffalo tight ends because they just don't really involve their tight ends much. Tyler Kroft is 2K, but what's he going to see? 3-4 targets in the max. I know he got 2 touchdowns week 3 against the Rams, but that's very unlikely to happen again. So I'm going to be off Tyler Kroft. Really don't see anything else I want to go to besides, Zach Moss. He'd be like the cheapest guy that I would even consider this low. I guess Isaiah McKenzie you can maybe go to. I'm pretty sure he's been on like 50 or 60% of the snaps these last few games. Maybe I'm wrong there. I think it's like maybe a little bit lower than that, like 40, 45. I mean, he's still like the 5th option on this team. I guess you just kind of play him and hope for a big play. He's going to be on the field some. He's going to get maybe a few targets. If he catches a long, 50, 60-yard pass, he could definitely be in the winning lineup. He's only 800. He's not the worst, like, punt play, but really there's no one else I want to go to. I think we pretty much, covered the player pool. So let's talk about roster construction real quick before we end the video. Just take a look at a few lineup builds. I talked about it earlier. I like playing John Brown at captain just as a cheap option with upside. What it's going to allow you to do with the rest of your lineup, I do like. So let's try and build a lineup out with John Brown at captain. Normally, if I'm playing a receiver, I say this in all my Showdown videos, if I'm playing a receiver at captain or a pass catcher in general, I want to pair the quarterback with the pass catcher. So probably want to get Josh Allen into those lineups with John Brown. We plug those 2 guys in. We got just over 7K remaining per player. So I definitely want to get either Henry or Tannehill into this build. I probably wouldn't play both guys together. I'll plug in Henry for now because he's definitely the guy I do prefer at 11K. We're going to have to find some value there. We're going to have to get a little bit cheap. So, Khalif Raymond I talked about, I do like as a cheap option. I think he's going to be on the field a ton. No Corey Davis, no Adam Humphries. He's going to be the number 2 receiver behind A.J. Brown. So we can plug him in at 4,800. And now we got 6,250 left per player for our last 2 spots. Couple ways we could go here. We can maybe plug in like one of the 2 kickers, and that might leave us enough to get up to Devin Singletary. I think we might have enough to play Singletary. 4,500. Yeah, we could do that. We could play Devin Singletary there, and then one of the 2 kickers. Between the 2 kickers, I really have no preference. Normally, I just play whatever kicker fits, or if I can fit both, or if I have the salary for either one, normally I just play whatever team has the higher team total. Right now, that is the Bills. They do have a 28.25 team total. They're favored by 3.5. So I guess we could just go with the Bills kicker at 4,200. I know Gostkowski's coming off a 25-point game. Maybe people will play him because of that, so you might get Bass lower owned. So that is a lineup build that you could do that I do actually like quite a bit that I think gives you some upside. There's the last few spots you could definitely mix around. You don't have to go to Singletary. You can maybe go to like Jonnu Smith, and that would leave you enough to play like Davis, but don't really love that. Maybe I could play, I said it earlier, I wouldn't want to play Henry and Tannehill together, but let's just see if we did plug in Tannehill. I mean, that would leave us enough to play Zach Moss, so I guess that's another build that you could do. Like I said earlier, probably wouldn't want to play Tannehill and Henry together because I think, it's unlikely you get multiple touchdowns from both guys. Like, if Henry scores 2 touchdowns, does Tannehill throw for 3 touchdowns? It's very unlikely. But quarterbacks in general do give you a pretty high floor. Like, they are pretty safe. Like, even a bad game from a quarterback, they can still give you like 15 points. So I guess you could do that. It really comes down to Tannehill, Moss versus Singletary. Singletary and one of the kickers. I guess that's a decision you could decide on yourself. I do like John Brown at captain, though. I like what it allows you to do with the rest of your lineup. Definitely think that's something I'm going to be looking to do on this Showdown slate. Now, if we wanted to pay up at captain, we could definitely see what that lets us do, whether that's like Allen or Henry. I think if I'm paying up at captain, those are my 2 favorite options. I mean, it's going to be tough to get Josh Allen in at 19.5, so let's plug in Henry at captain 16.5. If we're assuming that Henry has a big game, goes for over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns, that could mean that maybe Tennessee's playing from ahead, or that they just, that Henry scored all their touchdowns. Like, I would definitely not want to play Henry at captain and Tannehill in there. Like I said earlier, I like to get one of the 2 quarterbacks in, so if I'm not playing Tannehill in this lineup with Henry, then I definitely want to try and get Josh Allen if I can. Obviously, we're going to have to find some value once we go with those guys, so let's plug in like Khalif Raymond for cheap. We could go with one of the 2 kickers as well. We'll just plug in Gostkowski because he's a little bit cheaper, 3,800. We have 5,950 left for our last 2 spots. I do really like John Brown, who I talked about earlier. We could plug him in, and that leaves us, doesn't leave us much. Obviously there's not really anyone else here you could play. You could play the Bills defense, but I don't love that. Let's see here. Maybe we could drop down from Gostkowski Like, there's not much that I love down here, man. Like, I don't want to play the defenses. I guess Zach Moss we could play 2,600. That leaves us enough to get up to Jonnu Smith. So, I mean, that's a build that you could do as well. Henry at captain. I really do like Derrick Henry here. I think his upside is just through the roof in this offense. Like, they're just going to involve him so much. His touchdown equity, his touchdown potential is just so high. They get down to the goal line. They're handing it off to Derrick Henry. He's going to get, 25 to 30 touches almost every game, no matter, how game script sets up. So it's just tough. Like, when you pay up for Henry, it really thins you out with the rest of your lineup, and there's not a ton of great value on this slate, but you can make it work. Brown's pretty cheap, and I like him. Raymond's cheap, and I like him. You could always play one of the two kickers. Zach Moss isn't the worst punt play. I think there is a little bit of upside for him, so that's just kind of how I'm looking to approach this showdown slate, guys. Talked about roster construction, broke down the entire player pool, at least the playable options, the guys that I would actually have in my lineup. So I think we covered it all, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do really appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, hit that like button before you do get out of here. As always, I do appreciate the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel. I upload a ton of showdown videos throughout the year. I will have videos up for every Monday night game, for every Thursday night game when there are Thursday night games. Like I said earlier, no Thursday night game this week, but for pretty much every primetime game, minus Sunday night, I'm going to have a video up for the showdown slate. We do have 2 Monday night games next week, so I'll have a video up for the 2-game slate, assuming Draftkings puts out a bigger contest for that. I doubt there will be big contest for showdown. Usually when there's like a 2-game doubleheader, that's what they put all their big money in. So I'll have video up for that. I'll have videos up for the main slate this week as well. My first look video will go up soon, probably on Tuesday, depending on when salaries get released for week 6. Haven't been released yet, but I'm assuming they'll probably get released sometime Tuesday, and I will get my first look video up for that. So a ton of NFL content coming out throughout the week, guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so that way, you never miss out on any of my new videos. I forgot to say this at the beginning, but if you do really enjoy these YouTube videos and they help you out a lot and you want to get more content from me, I have stuff available on Patreon. You can check that out, link down below in the description. You can see all that I do have to offer on Patreon if that does interest you. But yeah, good luck on this slate, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it helped, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Peace.